I can see myself. All right, so we'll do that again. T-shirts, likes don't pay the bills. Very appropriate for the lead generation. Marshall's excited. The lead generation episode. Who would agree that, hey guys, we've got comments coming in. See, I should do that every day just to make sure every time we do this, just to get comments coming in. Who would agree things are changing faster than ever online and on social media? Things are changing so quickly that when I meet somebody that's done my LinkedIn training 2 years ago, I tell them, I say 50% of what you're doing is probably wrong. That's how fast things are changing. The way that we generate leads has got to change as well. Who has noticed that on LinkedIn, their inbox is getting more and more sales letters come through? There's a lot, isn't there? And they can be quite spammy. Now, we have got some scripts that don't assume that people have a need, but I think we need to do more than that now. You know, it's the cold outreach isn't 100% necessary anymore. So just to give you a bit of background, when I started my business that focuses on LinkedIn, Bibby Consulting Group, we were generating leads through a 3-step process. It's quite simple. We'd find people in the target market, then we'd connect with them, and then we'd send them a follow-up message. So we'd say something like, hey, I've noticed your profile. We've got these mutual contacts. I'd love to connect with you. And because they knew the same people you do, they would accept. And the conversion rates from invite to accept, it goes up a lot more when you have a lot more connections in common. So generally, like if that's low, it's just because you need some more connections. So it'll improve over time. And then when people accept the connection request, given that they're in your target market, we follow up with how to, whoever converts likes into paid dollars will be the next billionaire. Yeah, tell me about it. All right, so when you follow up with a new connection and you say, hey, thanks for connecting. I've noticed you're in this industry. I'd like to find out more about your objectives, see if there's an opportunity for us to help you. So the key, by the way, with that message is that we never assume that somebody has the problem that we solve. So it's very different to a sales letter, because the sales letter is going to assume that they have the need, and they're just hoping that they find someone that's interested. It's almost like an outbound marketing activity where you're like, run and tell everyone about what you do, hoping you find somebody that's relevant. And I've always believed that inbound marketing is way more effective. And so to turn an outbound outreach into an inbound inquiry, you've got to speak to them or ask them questions. And it's a lot easier to ask questions on a telephone. So I always try to convert it to a telephone call. And then on the telephone call, say, hey, the purpose of this call is for me to find out a little bit about you. See, you could even say, to see if you've got the problem that I solve. But it's just basically to see if there's an opportunity to work together. But as the longer I've been doing this, I've been posting content. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started posting content, this is really funny. When I started posting content, and I shared this at LinkedIn versus Instagram for those of you who were there, for the first 2 or 3 years, and this is on YouTube, by the way, because LinkedIn didn't have video yet. No one was watching my videos. I'd post a video and they'd get like 2 or 3 views. And the amount of like how nervous I would get before posting, recording the amount of effort I'd put into planning the video, and then the 2 or 3 people, I'd still get so nervous. No one was watching them. And my friends used to say to me, they go, hey, Nat, what are you doing all those videos for? No one's watching them. And I was just like, I remember I was just speechless. I had nothing to say. I was like, well, yeah, no one is watching them. But I kept listening to this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. And he's like, post content. He's like on the way to meetings, pulls over, and he stands in front of a dumpster and he's like, content. That's why I'm standing in front of a dumpster. So Gary V, and I'm just immersing myself in Gary Vaynerchuk's content, who posts, thank God, posts a lot. And I'm like, Gary V's got to be right. He's got to be right. So 2 years into this thing, and I noticed Kerwin Ray started getting success as well, who followed Gary V really hard. And one of the things that Kerwin did, which I noticed that broke through a lot, is he started, he got a cameraman to follow him around, and he started doing these series, which is basically just like about his company. For the whole week, he would have one episode. It was called The Social Experiment. And then I decided that I would start interviewing entrepreneurs that are making an impact. And some of the entrepreneurs that I decided to interview were guys that were killing it with content marketing. So I thought, one of the byproducts of doing this could be to learn from those guys. And so Kerwin Ray was coming to Perth, and I was like, I've been hitting up Kerwin for a while on Facebook. It was quite interesting when his team responded and said, yeah, Kerwin will do the interview with you. I scrolled up on Facebook, and it'd be the same on Instagram and LinkedIn. I would have done it on all three channels. I scrolled up and you just see all these messages from me going, hey, can we do the interview yet? Can we do the interview yet? You ready to do the interview? And so he said yes eventually. So that'd be a lesson for you, perseverance. And then what I found is in those 15 minutes, mainly because I was quite prepared. I was listening very attentively, but then also because of all the editing and post-production work, I ended up watching it quite a bit. So what would happen is in 15 minutes, I would learn quite a lot. And I learned a lot from Kerwin Ray. He told me about something called the mere exposure effect. And the mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomena that basically says the more times that a person is exposed to a brand on the basis that, that brand isn't ruining that relationship by putting calls to action in front of them all the time, then they're going to like them more, trust them more, they're going to be more familiar with them. Therefore, the chances are, all things being equal, they're more likely to do business with them. So the analogy that I use when I explain this in my talks and so on is if you drove home from work and you saw 10 billboards of Coca-Cola, you didn't see any Pepsi billboards anywhere, they're not giving you a call to action, they're just showing you nice pictures of people having fun, then you're more familiar and more likely to buy Coke over Pepsi. That's basically the way it works. So these days you need quite a lot of exposures in front of an individual to build that familiarity, just because they're getting so many messages. Everyone's getting bombarded with messages. So, so let's say it's 20 exposures, right? So I think of content marketing and social media, like how do I get 20 exposures in front of my target audience so that they chances are like more, trust me, more familiar. But even if they didn't like me, right? Even if I was just more familiar, even if they didn't like me, but I was more familiar than the next guy, they would trust me more. That's the way the mere exposure effect works. Because not everyone who does business with me likes me, right? But I'm more trusted service provider because I'm more familiar. I'm in front of them more. And that's a whole other conversation, by the way, being okay with people not liking you, because the chances are, if you're going to post content, there are going to be people that don't like you, don't agree with you, but those people will still do business with you. The amount of times that somebody's messaged me and, it doesn't even have to be a message. It could be a comment where they're disagreeing with me, or messaged me and told me that they didn't like my t-shirt, right? But ended up buying. It's huge. Though I think it's a lot to do with how you respond to those messages as well. Because you really got to, if you find yourself getting emotional about it, you've got to just put it down, come back to it later when you're sent it. Because it's nothing to do with you. If they don't like your t-shirt, it says way more about them, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just got different preferences. It would be a bit of a boring world if we were all the same and we all agreed all the time. So I learned a lot from Kerwin Ray about this mere exposure thing. And so what Kerwin was doing, this wasn't all he was doing, but one of the things he was doing is very authentic. And he got more authentic by posting videos. And it's the same for me. And he was showing what was going on behind the scenes, and people wanted to see that. But also he was showing up more than anyone else. He was posting more than anyone else. And he nailed Facebook funnels and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so the next guy that I learned about, I learned a lot from Jules Lund as well. I got to throw him in the mix. Jules, founder of Tribe. I think a lot of what Jules brought to the table was his experience doing TV shows and radio. It's not something he explained to me, but I could see it in the way that he was on camera. And he made me realize how important it was to be somewhat entertaining. And so the way that I think about doing that, and I don't think I'm the most entertaining content creator. I think it's something I got to work on a lot. But he's very good at it, and always cracking jokes. And I think it's, when you know your stuff so well, you can kind of throw that in there, spontaneous sort of humor, I suppose. But what I noticed is when I was creating content at the start, is I was thinking so hard about what I was going to say and not to say and ah. The chances of me being entertaining or funny while I did it are pretty low, pretty slim to none. And so if you've got to be prepared to be more relaxed on camera, then do that. For me, I think I need to be prepared in terms of know my content, know the structure. But if it's as detailed as word for word, with no flexibility, I find I'm more in my head than I am present. So just got to find what works for you. But Grant Cardone was the next one. So Grant Cardone was a guy that it was a mission to interview him. Like, if any of you know the story, like I had to get 2 flights to get there. And, by the time I finished the interview, it was all last minute. By the time I finished the interview, I didn't even have a plane ride back, and it's 9:30 at night. And I'm like, there's no more. Is there any more flights back to Perth? And the videographer dropped me off at the pub. I remember I was exhausted. But dude, he said to me, he's like, Nat, listen to me. He's like, you got to be more prolific. You got to have a bigger opinion on stuff. You need to interview people that you disagree with, because that's what's interesting content. He goes, it's no good like you coming here and you're interviewing me and you agree with everything I said. I'm like, Grant, you're the man. I just want to learn from you. Like, of course I'm going to agree with everything. Like, yeah, really? Wow. He pretty much tell me anything. But he's like, hey, Grant, just say, Grant, I disagree with you on that. And I was like, I disagree with you. He's like, you can't do it like that. So, but this comes into like the entertainment side of it. And so Grant's pushed that like way harder than I would be comfortable with. Like, during lockdown, like there was all this attention on coronavirus, and like his YouTube views were going down. And so he like leaks this video of him talking about that he's going bankrupt, right? And of course, because of this is the way it works online, and this is terrible on YouTube and Twitter. But if people that are antisocial are 4 times more likely to engage with your stuff, right? So if you want to go viral, you fire up these antisocial people, right? And again, this is not something I feel comfortable with, but like as soon as he's leaked, he did it in a smart way, that he was going bankrupt, all these antisocial content creators like started posting about it. I knew it, he's falling apart, Grant Cardone's going under. And his number of views went through the roof. And a week later, he released a video going, gotcha. And he's done this a few times throughout his career. And you'll notice as well when he interviews people, like he's like that doesn't work. That's bullshit. He's trying to get that that engaging content. A lot of people get really upset by it, right? But this is literally like a big part of why Grant Cardone is so successful at social media. And so like all this is going on. And by the way, my clients, we're still doing the find, connect, and engage, and we still do this service, and it's the biggest part of my business. With some companies, we even guarantee the number of leads we can generate for them because we're so confident in the service. But I mean, generating leads is not necessarily going to grow your business. Like, you need to be able to convert those leads into opportunities. And with every single client, the conversation becomes about quality, not quantity. But there's no reason why should that outreach, when you're connecting with clients and engaging with them, Marshall's going nuts. Why should it be a cold outreach? Why couldn't it be a warm outreach? Like, I'm posting all this content, I'm seeing all this value. Like, I'm getting these leads which come through, which are like, hey, Nat, I've been watching your videos for 2 years. I'm like, well, no, you haven't, because I only got 3 views 2 years ago, and 2 of them were my mum watching it twice. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, I appreciate that. I haven't heard from you in the comments before, but it's awesome that you're contacting me now, and they're ready for me to do LinkedIn training for their business. But this is the thing, right? That lead, by the way, who would agree that lead is better than someone you've reached out to, who's been watching your content, has contacted you? This is the other thing about that lead, though. They're not speaking to any other service providers. So, like, if they've got that relationship because of the mere exposure effect, they're not really like Googling LinkedIn training courses and speaking to 2 or 3 other providers. So I was like, wow, this is so valuable. How do I bottle this up and sell it to my client base? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm posting a video a day, 5 days a week minimum, right? Most of them are professionally produced. And like, it was a nightmare trying to get these videos produced professionally at that level, because like, if you're posting on Instagram, like, and you're doing stories and stuff, you're using your phone, like, it's relatively cheap to produce. On LinkedIn, like, I'm trying to target Apple, Westpac, international companies. And like, the way I looked at it is my competition, the people that they're doing business with, are producing at a professional level. Kerwin Ray was getting professional video content done. Obviously, Grant Cardone is. I think to myself, I've got to produce at that level. So I Googled like all of these like video marketing agencies in Australia. And the cheapest video I could find was $5,000 for a 3-minute video. If you go to bibbyconsultinggroup.com.au, that's the video on our homepage, what we do. And so I bought it, yeah. But like I was like, I need to produce way more content. I can't pay $5,000 every time I produce a video. That's ridiculous. And so I went on to Airtasker. If you guys are familiar with Airtasker, you basically throw a job up and freelancers can bid for it. Like I use it to get my apartment clean, things like that as well. And the cheapest guy I could find was $500 for a video, right? A lot cheaper, a tenth of the price. But no experience, you know, no existing clients. I hired him, and we started producing these videos. And yes, Alistair. Well, we'll get into a little bit about shorts on YouTube. I think you'd refer to shorts videos. No, I haven't got into that yet. Phone. But one thing I will say that you want to get right is your lighting and your audio. If you get your lighting and your audio right, the camera on the telephone is pretty good. What I've noticed is when most people do it on their own, is the audio is not good and the lighting is not good. So you have to have some degree of experience. Guys on Instagram generally, like who are doing well, are pretty good, pretty handy with a camera. If they're doing the post themselves, or like maybe that's why a lot of the models do so well. It's partly because they look great, but also it's got a lot to do with their experience, but with using a camera, like lighting and all that sort of stuff is really important. And so like businessmen on LinkedIn, not a lot of experience with lighting and audio. So it's something you want to get right. But those videos on LinkedIn, like after 10 seconds, 50% on average, 50% of the viewers are gone after 10 seconds. So it's got to be really good. It's no good having it's bad audio, bad lighting, and you spend your first 10 seconds just like saying, hi, I'm Nathaniel, I'm hopping on, blah, 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 blah. You're going to lose a lot of people, right? Unless they know you, or they've got some reason that they're going to watch it if they're compelled by the headline or whatever. And so after a minute, it's 80% is the average. Now, like you'll do better than this, partly because most videos suck, but also because the chances are the people in your network, the people that are going to be watching your content are going to know you. And if people know you, it's a lot easier. And so what I'm saying is with these cold outreach, like there's no reason why if you're reaching out to a secondary connection, you shouldn't at least be a little bit familiar with them because of some of the content that you've been putting out already. And the thing is, like, you learn from posting. So if you're posting once a week, it's just not enough. Like I've always been really delicate with telling people how often they should be posting. And I understand, like, if it's new to somebody, that they don't have time to be like spending a lot of time on this, like, you know, but it's not enough anymore. One day is not enough. One post per week is not enough. And it's not about like you showing up in front of somebody all the time. That's not why it's not enough. The reason it's not enough is because you're just going to learn too slowly. By the time you learn what works, it's going to take like 3 or 4 months to be doing it once a week. But then everything would have changed. Like you know what I mean? Like the technology changes. And so you're going to be doing it all the time. And so you've got to get comfortable with, first of all, putting stuff up that sucks. Okay, one of the biggest reasons people don't want to do it is because they put it up and it sucks, and then everyone's going to be like, well, your video sucks. But this is the thing, right? If your video sucks, no one's going to see it. Very few people. If the people that will see it are not the people that are going to buy from you. They're not the people in your target audience. The people that are giving you the feedback about the videos that suck, those guys are not going to be positive influences. They're looking to see you fail. That's why they're telling you about it. Your potential customers won't have seen it because it wouldn't have got enough engagement to show up in their newsfeed. So it's okay if stuff sucks. I try to have a video or a post, you know, every now and then that sucks, because then I know that I'm posting enough, and also you're learning what doesn't work. You don't learn a huge amount if everything's going well all the time. And so. And no one's going to see it if it sucks, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what your friends and like most of the time it's their friends that they're worried about. Like, what will my friends think? You know, but when you nail this content marketing thing, they'll all shut up. Like my friends have all shut up about this now. Now they're like, how did you do it? You know, Before it was, why are you doing that? Why are you doing all those videos for? Now it's like, how did you do that? You know, if they've been watching since the start, right? They're like, you're everywhere, man. Right? They commented more when I was failing. I don't hear from them now. Interesting. So what I'm suggesting is you've got to be developing a relationship with mere exposure through content. And if you're in a B2B market where you are targeting like corporate businesses, it kind of needs to be professional, but you just plan it, right? It's a little bit like I'm big into hip hop. If you know me, I love hip hop. And here in Perth in West Australia, like it's probably, out of all the cities in Australia, we've got the most underground hip hop scene, right? And so the guys that are like making hip hop music here, the rappers, they generally have like a day job, right? And so when they go to the studio, like a music studio with a professional producer that's produced like professional artists, like it's a lot of money for them. They have to save up. And so like these guys, right, underground rappers that like work in bakeries and fish and chip shops and do newspaper rounds and stuff, they show up at the studio. They've got to be really prepared. Like in an hour, they can bash out like 5 or 6 songs, you know, but even most professional artists would like struggle to get a song out in a day, but these guys they have to make it work, right? So you just think about it. You've got to plan your video production the same way, right? And so when you go in to do your videos, and I'm not suggesting it all be scripted, like, and you're just speaking to the camera, but what you could do, right, is you could come up with like, okay, what are the topics that people are interested in? If you haven't been posting content yet, you're just going to have to kind of come up with these on your own, maybe ask some people in your target market. But if you have been posting content, you look at what pieces of content have done the best. What I've got, and when I say the best, like which ones have you got inquiries from? Which ones have got the most comments? And then you just base your content around that. And rather than coming up with like things that you want to say, what I would come up with is a list of questions that people might ask. And then you could even structure it like an interview, right? I remember when I was recording stuff with this inexperienced videographer for $500 a video, right? He's watching it and he's like, dude, it's not that good, right? And I watched it back and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not that good. I'm like, why don't you try interviewing me? He's like, oh, dude, I don't know what to ask you, right? So I write down 5 questions that I get asked a lot. And I'm like, okay, just ask me these questions. And then I would speak to him and he's like, there next to the camera, but it was a lot better. And so you could structure it like an interview. And this is how I create content with my clients. Like I sit down with them and I interview them for an hour. And the question, I've got a long list of questions, and I kind of like decide which ones as we go are going to be the most engaging. And each answer, if I ask the right questions, each answer should be a video, like a 2-3 minute video. And we just chop out all the umming and ahhing. Because normally when you ask a question, somebody like ums and ahs, dances around, gives a bit of backstory, and then they answer it. And so we just cut all that crap out and we just go straight to the answer. But we're batch creating. We're creating like 50 videos in 1 hour. So the production costs go down. Yes, there's a lot of editing. Like the video production companies that I've got working with me, there's one in Perth and there's one in Sydney. Like I had to sit their whole team down. I'm like, okay, you guys are great at producing videos, but you're no longer the master chefs. We are now McDonald's. We are going to put the videos on a conveyor belt and we're going to be bashing them out, right? So like we can turn 1 hour of content into 50 videos relatively quickly. And the reason we do it quickly is so the cost goes down. But not only that, what I've noticed is by following like a system, same as running a business, right? When you follow a system, you find that things work actually better because there is a system that works the best. Having the headline in a certain place, having the subtitles produced a certain way in a certain color, having the videos a certain length, having an editing process, it actually makes the best content if you follow a system. And so that we've systemized video production, which I'm very happy about because there's no video production company in Australia. And I would have spoken to at least somewhere between 50 and 100 companies, but to my knowledge, there's no video production company in Australia that's doing this. Like most of the time they're creatives. Like, so they produce awesome videos, but they're more so like, this is the about us video, or there might be, training videos. But videos for social media, they actually don't work that well like that. They need to be more authentic. And so then, you go to video production companies, they're like, the creatives. And then if you go to a content marketing company or a social media company, they understand that it needs to be regular posting, but they don't necessarily understand about building a brand. And you'll be able to tell whether or not they know about building a brand by looking at their own company page. How many followers do they have? How engaged is the company page? Does the founder have a personal brand? Because what they're probably doing for their clients, I only say this because 90% of companies that do content marketing and social media are like, they know there's a market there, so they have to offer the service, and they can charge a lot for it because most people don't understand what it is or what to look for. Is they curate content. It's called curation, and curation means, okay, you hop online, and you can do this a number of ways. You can go to Google Alerts, set up alerts for certain keywords. You could go to BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed has the most engaged, not BuzzFeed. What's it called? Marshall's growling. Here we go. You're not coming in, buddy. Is it BuzzFeed? BuzzFeed's the news site, isn't it? They're pretty good with their headlines and stuff. But there's a website that you can go to BuzzSumo. That's it. BuzzSumo. Yeah, it shows you the most engaged blogs. So if you search for a topic, it'll tell you what topics are the most engaging. And then what they do is they capture all this content, all these blogs and stuff which are doing well, news going on in the industry, and then they reshare it, basically, share links and stuff. So you're still getting an exposure in front of your audience, but it doesn't really build your brand because this content's not coming from you. So they're not getting to know you. So you're not really building a brand. So how does a content marketing company like that get a business who has no experience posting content, is going to have all these psychological barriers about worrying what people think, to be able to be posting enough for them to be able to build a brand? And chances are, it's pretty much impossible. They don't have to train them or do it the way that I'm doing it. So it's taken me a couple of years to come up with this system. And when you do the outreach and you connect and engage with people, the chances are you are familiar, right? So they'll be like, I've seen your stuff. Oh, you seem familiar. I recognize you. We met because they've seen your content. They may not remember where from, but that's why. Okay. And then you take it a little bit further, right? And you engage on their content. So if you were starting today on LinkedIn with 0 followers, this is what I would tell you to do. This would be exciting for me. I don't reckon it would take long at all for us to get you leads if you were starting from 0. All the irrelevant connections that you have and all of the inbound connection requests you get, which are not relevant, are a distraction. The number of followers is a distraction. Massive, massive distraction. Does not matter. There's so many people that I know with loads of followers that are broke. There's just heaps of them. And it doesn't surprise me at all, because if you make that your focus, you're not focusing on serving your customer. You're focusing on developing a relationship with your customer. You're focusing on the number of followers. It's a little bit like if you go to a networking party, cocktail party, right? To network with people that could be potential customers. And you get ready, you're all excited to be there. It's a Friday night, and you get there, and there's only 10 people there. Now you want to make the most of the situation. So what do? Do you speak to the 10 people in the room, have empathy, ask them questions, be personable, get to know them? Or do you spend your whole time at the front of the venue with people walking past on the street going, hey, do you want to come in and have some cheese and wine? Come in. Why don't you want to come? Do you want to come in? So you see the analogy? So people are spending time trying to get more followers, and they're not developing a relationship with the people that are already there in the room listening. Big mistake. Focus on the 10 in the room. That's where the business is. It's not outside with the new followers. All right. And if you created a good relationship with those 10 people, they will tell their friends. It's a natural consequence. But you don't need hundreds of thousands of followers. You'll get there, right? You'll get there, and you realize it's not the answer. Do you know how many people get to 100,000 followers and then change careers? Heaps. Because they didn't realize that they have never monetized. They can't monetize the audience, because the audience that they have don't really care about them, because they're just focusing on getting the next follower.
it could be ego driven. I don't know, but maybe it's just their objectives. They think they've just got confused. They thought that was the solution. I'll get 10,000 followers and everything will be okay. No, you don't need more than you don't need more than 500. But anyway, so starting from zero on LinkedIn, this is what I suggest you do. So you get laser targeted on a niche, right? You have to have one. Like if you're starting from zero, you may as well have one. You'll do better on social media if you do. So work out who your ideal client is, and it can change. You can add target markets. It's not stuck in stone, but like pick a niche that you can add a lot of value to, right? You'll be able to charge more. You'll be able to help them more. You'll get more referrals, and then you should start connecting with them. And even in your headline, I would put the niche. So, like, let's say for example, you're a financial advisor for dental practitioners. So you're like, I help dentists reach their financial goals, right? I help dentists reach their financial goals. That's your headline, okay? And so you reach out to people in the dental industry, and you're like, hey, I noticed you're in the dental industry. I work a lot in this industry. Let's connect. When you get to about 50 connections, and then you send out your 51st connection request, the guy that's receiving it goes, oh my goodness, he's connected to Bob, Jane, 50 other dental practitioners. What am I missing out on? Except when you get to 500 and it says 500 plus on your profile, then you look like quite a connected individual. And then he sees all these dentists that are connected with you. He's like, Jesus, what am I missing out on? What does this guy know about retiring young and building wealth that I need to know about? Now, throw into the mix that since day dot, he's been posting videos about how you can build wealth as a dental practitioner. Maybe he's even started a podcast where he's interviewing dental practitioners who are wealthy about how they did it. So he's not even coming up with the content, right? All of a sudden, these guys, first of all, they start to see him show up in the newsfeed, interviewing people that they know in their industry. So when he reaches out and connects with them, the chances of them accepting is a lot higher. Now, those clients that he's interviewing who are already wealthy in the dental industry, they're going to be the best clients he could possibly have. And he's can approach them by saying, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? How many dentists do you know that get asked to be on podcasts? Not many. So the chances of him saying yes is very high. This guy, when he gets to 500 connections, would have a very successful business, right? And then there's a guy down the road who's spent years creating 100,000 followers in every industry that's doing a podcast about nothing and everything, who's broke, absolutely broke. So what did we talk about today so far? Well, we've covered lead generation, not assuming, first of all, that people have a problem that you solve. You always want to ask questions until you know, they've told you, I am frustrated with this, and you solve that. And you don't start selling straight away. You say, would you like to hear more about how I can help you with that? You have to get permission to pitch. Permission to pitch. Find out they have the problem you solve. By the way, if you ask someone the questions and they're like, no, actually, we're doing really well in that area, they don't have the problem you solve, or they don't believe they have the problem you solve, which is just the same. I mean, if you honestly think that they've got the problem you solve and they don't know it yet, you could just ask them a few more questions, just dig deeper. Like, oh, but what about this part of it? Like, is that frustrating? But if they don't believe they've got the problem you solve, you can't help them. It's like what they say in 12 steps of recovery. The first step is acknowledging the problem, right? It's the same in sales. I should write that down. That was good. All right. So the final thing, the final piece to the puzzle, because we did talk about commenting on other people's stuff, by the way. I have done this with clients who have started with like 100 connections or so, targeting CEOs in the mining industry. When you look at their newsfeed, because they're not connected with people that are irrelevant, they're only connected with CEOs in the mining industry, that's all the content they see. Like, forget all the people that tell you that LinkedIn is full of salespeople and recruiters. They have been reactive since day one. They just go in there and they like see all their requests and they accept them all. And then they're like, I'm so sick of people spamming me on LinkedIn.
Well, why did you connect with them? What do you expect? No one's going to, they're going to send you connection requests if they're salespeople and recruiters. If you want to have a good experience on LinkedIn, you send the connection request. You decide who's in your target audience. Don't be reactive. Take responsibility for your experience on LinkedIn. And if you do, it can be extremely powerful. These guys that are targeting the CEOs in the mining industry, that's all they see. And these guys, the CEOs of mining companies, ASX-listed companies, like really successful, they're getting like 2 or 3 comments. I'm like, dude, you go in there and you comment on every time you post. You go in once a week for half an hour and you comment on every single post in your newsfeed from CEOs of mining companies. It will release dopamine in their brain. They're like, oh, wow, a 4th comment. Who is this? Oh, he's commented again. I like this guy. I'm like, honey, this is my new friend on the internet, right? They like you already. Then you're posting content. They're like, oh, yeah, he's my friend. Bang, I like him, comment on him. Then you reach out to him. Like, so this is really important. When somebody comments on your stuff, right, they're investing in you. It's some time. It may not be money, but the fact that they bothered to watch your stuff and leave a comment is them giving you some value, right? The worst thing you could do with any of your social media is to not respond to that comment. Like the amount of times I go to a profile and I see like they get 2 or 3 comments, but they're too busy out the front of the restaurant trying to get people to come in and try the cheese, right? They haven't responded to those comments. Those 2 comments are the most important part of the whole thing we're doing here because they're moving up the engagement ladder. Your engagement ladder, like viewing your content, liking your content, commenting on your content, messaging you, getting a proposal, doing business. That's how it works. And so if they're moving up the engagement ladder, you've got to like reward them. So always respond to a comment. Thank them for the comment, if nothing else. And then they'll feel comfortable commenting again. If somebody went up to you at this networking function, right? This is the ultimate. This is literally what people are doing. So you're out these guys are out they're not networking with the 10 people in the restaurant. They're out the front trying to get new people to come in to try the cheese, right? Then somebody comes out of the restaurant and joins them and goes to shake their hand like this, walks up to them like this and says, hi, I'm Nathaniel. And they don't shake their hand back. It's the same, it's exactly the same as if one of your followers comments on your stuff and you don't respond to the comment. He's too busy trying to get more followers. This is exactly the same. Always return a handshake. Always. The algorithm will love you for it as well. Those comments count just as much as somebody else commenting. Like you respond, if you get 10 comments and you respond to all of them, you've got 20 comments now. And respond to them in a timely manner. I'm like, people are like, oh, you know, is posting once enough on LinkedIn? I'm like, yeah, once a day, that is enough, yeah. They're like, once a day? I was thinking once a week. No, that's not enough. And you need to be on there every day. Like, how else are you honestly going to learn what works and what doesn't? And how are you going to develop a relationship with somebody? Like, if you've got a prospect and they like ask you a question about a deal, are you going to take a week to respond to them? No. Yes, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but you're communicating at scale with your audience. Like everybody that you know in business that's related to what you do should be a connection. So they're all there, right? Why shouldn't you be in front of them? Why shouldn't you be getting the most engagement? Why shouldn't you be caring enough to be there every day? And then you can just, it's so easy then to reach out, like to connect with people becomes very easy. Because they know who you are. Like they don't know who you are, but you're familiar with them. They're familiar with you, sorry. Familiar with you, okay. All right. Well, I hope we made up for the little technical difficulty. Thanks so much for sticking with me. For those of you that stayed on the live, I appreciate it. And we'll see you next week on Monday Night Live. Have a great week in business. Wish you nothing but the best. Yeah, if you're watching the replay, you might want to fast forward a little bit through the middle there. We had a few technical difficulties. Good evening, guys. Thanks so much.